Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am Reverend Karen LeBlanc, and I minister to this church as we minister to each other. Welcome. We are a beloved community of people who believe that everyone is worthy of respect, that science is real, that the democratic process is a sacred thing, that we are all part of an interconnected web, and that the light and energy that we share and put out makes a difference in this world. We are people of purpose here. And if what you hear resonates with you today, you might want to consider becoming part of this way cool community of seekers and keepers of this long dream here at First Unitarian. Couple of quick announcements. Today is a special service. This is our flower communion. And this is the 100th anniversary of the flower communion brought here by Maya Chapek, who was a minister of this church many, many years ago. I want to say a special thank you to Reverend Joshua Berg, who made this happen for all the Unitarian churches across the country and across the world. He created a big database of cool things to share with each other, so keep in our heads that a bunch of other Unitarians are doing the same thing maybe today or next week. There is a card up here for Sarah. As you might know, Sarah Storer, our great administrator who has been with us 5 years, is moving to Vermont. Sadly, happily for them, it's a new adventure, but oh boy, losing Sarah is a real bummer because she's just terrific. So we have a card up here for people to sign and say thanks. And we also have a little fund going for her. They have enough stuff to move, so we figured we'd give her a little pile of cash to take with her instead. The annual meeting is today after the service. Please be aware of that. So voting members, please stay in the sanctuary. We will save coffee for you, I promise. We are live streaming today, as usual. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and greetings to our YouTube viewers today. And let's see. If you're new here, you can sign one of these blue cards that will put you on our email newsletter list. And if you will put your phones in worship mode, we'll begin by lighting our chalice with Yasmin. And Alexi. Thanks, Lex. As we light our chalice this morning, may we be mindful of how radical and powerful love is, and how dangerous those who fear perceive love to be. May we know how necessary and essential it is to keep alive the message of universal love and humanity and human dignity, of reverence for life, all creation in our hearts and in our actions. We are now among the keepers of that flame. Our opening words this morning are from Alice Berry. Children of the earth and sky, we are nurtured, sustained, given warmth and light from above and below. Supported by earth's strong, firm crust, we build our homes, till the fields, plant our gardens and orchards. When we turn from self and seek to be aware, we will find holy light in human faces, in blossoms, in birdsong and sky. Then the earth is truly our home, and we are one with all the earth's creatures, parents of the earth's children yet to be. Now, if you will, please rise if you are willing and able, and sing with me hymn number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Blackbird has spoken.
please take the time to greet one another. Say good morning. All right. You can remain standing if you would, and we will read together our covenant, which is printed in your order of service. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. Please be seated. And it looks like we've got some kids here today. Hooray, hooray. Miss Yasmin, our religious education director, is going to read a story.
More like a blessing. Is this on? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So, my little people, we're going to come back to the service when it's time for the flower communion. So we'll go out, do our thing, and then we'll return, just so you know. So this is a bouquet of people. Let us give thanks for a bouquet of people. We give thanks for children like tulips and irises. They multiply around us, making the world ever more filled with color, beauty, and new life. May we bless them as they replant themselves even further away from us, knowing that they need their own space to grow into. And we give thanks to our generous friends, as constant in bloom as echinacea, and whose gifts lift up our body and spirit. And we give thanks to those feisty friends, as indomitable as geraniums, and for continuous friends who, like bittersweet and ivy, hold on and never let go and can never be gotten rid of. And for crotchety friends, as prickly as rose bushes, their beauty a secret that is only discovered through careful gardening. And for surprising friends, who at first glance seem dour and then blossom into joy as quickly as forsythia. And for funny friends, silly as snapdragons, and serious friends, complex as chrysanthemums. And for comfortable friends, their gentle presence as soothing as sweet smells of lilacs. And for stormy weather friends, who stand by us in hard times, like the lily of the valley that cannot be deterred by shade or shadow. For old friends nodding like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends coming on fast as flocks, and for friends as unpretentious as dogwood, as persistent as Pachysandra, and steadfast like azaleas, and who like snowdrops can be counted on to see you through the winter and remind you that spring always comes, and for loving friends who wind around us like wisteria and embrace us despite our blights, wilts, and witherings. And finally, forget-me-not friends, gone but never forgotten. Their beauty lives on in our memories and hearts. And so for this bouquet of people who brighten our lives, each in their own way, we give thanks to them. Amen.
Yes. Could you move that microphone over here? Just to get it out of the way of the camera. Thank you. All right. Will the children go to Sunday school? Way cool Sunday school. Don't worry, we're gonna, oh, actually, no, wait. Wait, you can't go yet, because you've got to get a flower. No. We're gonna come back to the flower meeting. Don't you want to come and put one in? For the, that's what you're going to do with the flower that you had. All right, hold on, kids. Come over here. Sit down. Come here. Come on. Sit down over there. Because I got to tell you about this cool flower communion first. Does everybody have a flower? Do you need a flower? We'll go get some flowers right over there. Go ahead. You see right up in the front right there, there's a whole bunch of flowers. Grab any one that you think is cool. Then I'm going to tell you another little story. All right. So, 100 years ago, that's almost as old as me, in 1923, Norbert and Maya Čapek were ministers of a Unitarian congregation in Prague, Czechoslovakia. And most of their congregation had left other religions to become Unitarians, and many of those people did not want to be reminded of the repressive religions that they had left behind. So Norbert and Maya decided to create a new cool ritual for their congregation called a flower communion. So one Sunday in June, they asked everyone in the congregation to bring a flower to their worship service. And when people arrived on Sunday morning, all the flowers were gathered in vases, and Norbert said a short blessing over the flowers. And that's how flowers became a symbol of what it means to be a human being. Every flower was different. Every flower was beautiful in its own way. And at the end of the worship service, everyone went up and then took a different flower from the one that they had brought and took the flower home with them as a symbol of their connection to everyone else in the congregation. So we are going to have our own flower communion right here today to make this connection with each other. And in a larger way, connect with other Unitarian congregations around the country and the world who are also celebrating this lovely ritual. So as we do this today, I want you to keep that thought in your mind. How many people are doing this? And so many of our churches, so many are so small in numbers, and this is a wonderful way to embrace each other and reach out and connect with each other. And remember that a lot of little groups, when they get together, become a really powerful force and a united voice that can be heard and felt and make a difference in this world. So in just a moment, does everyone have a flower? Okay, in just a moment, I'm going to have you come forward and put one in here. See the vase right here in front? But let's let the kids go first so that they can go off to Sunday school. And then you guys will come back later and pick a different flower to bring home with you. Good job. Oh, yeah, right in there. Whoa, look at that. Yes, me. All right, kids. See you later. We'll make sure you come back for the other part. Now, if everyone else would like to come forward and bring your flowers and put them in the vase, come on and do so now. I brought a bleeding heart. I'm sure somebody, Sophia, hi. I bet you, being a young person, has a phone with a camera on it. Would you take a picture of our lovely bouquet when it's all finished? Thank you. We gonna be able to get all these in here? I doubt we can. That's bleeding hearts, nobody you are, Carol. All right. Tony Ann coming in with the Solomon seal. Okay. Beautiful. So this is the part. This part is by Norbert Chapek. Just about all the rest of the stuff is direct from Norbert. So this is the consecration. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of the most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Indeed. And now we will have some centering music, I believe. Oh, I cut Candles of Joys and Concerns today because we have not a lot of time today. Thank you. Listen now to Reverend Dr. Chapek's Flower Communion Prayer. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the tree, and in the hearts of men and women the longing for people living in human love. In the name of the highest, in whom we move, and who makes the mother and father, the brother and sister, what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of peace and justice. Let us renew our resolution, sincerely, to be real brothers and sisters, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges one from another. In this holy resolution, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one spirit, that spirit of love, unites us. And may we endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen. Now, where's my special page? Here we go. I want to start with a lovely short version of the story about how this ritual came to be. This is called Norbert's Lasting Idea by Laurel Whitehouse. Norbert Chapek was born 150 years ago in June of 1870. He grew up in troubled times in Europe. During World War I, his safety was threatened because he spoke out against those who tried to restrict freedom of worship. So Norbert and his wife came to America, where Norbert discovered Unitarianism, and he became a Unitarian minister. Once the war had ended, Reverend Norbert wanted to return to share his love of Unitarianism with the people of his country, which was now the newly created country of Czechoslovakia. He returned to the city of Prague, and in 1921, he started a brand new church, which grew steadily, and more people came to listen to his sermons. The war had left many miseries and a hard life for the people of Prague. Families had been broken up, businesses had been ruined, and there many people of his congregations didn't have enough money to meet their needs. Unitarianism was new to Czechoslovakia, and the worship service was very not like what we do today. There were no stories or music, and the sermons were very, very long. The church building was plain and cold in the winter. And still people came because they were eager for worship and spirituality and connection and hope as they tried to rebuild their lives. Reverend Norbert knew that the people who came to hear his sermons were just learning about Unitarianism and building a new faith together. But he also knew that their daily struggle continued 5 years after the war. He knew the weariness of the troubles and sadness they carried, and how his people yearned for a sense of connection and possibility. He went for a walk along the river Vltava, which winds through Prague. And as he slowly crossed one of the many bridges over the river, he began to think about how to lift the spirits of the people in his congregation. He wanted to help them have a little hope. Reverend Norbert saw a flower growing in the bare and scuffed earth near the edge of the river. And the beauty and bravery of that little blossom lifted him up, lifted his spirits. And he wanted to share that feeling of being uplifted with his congregation, but how was he going to do that? His church had no altar, no flowers, no gardens around it. So Reverend Norbert thought and thought as he walked, but he just didn't have any ideas about how to share the feeling that the flower had given him. He came to a small child from his congregation who smiled at him and held out a flower for him to take. Reverend Norbert smiled back, and with a happy heart, he realized in that moment how to spread this warm feeling with the members of his church. It was spring, and there were flowers growing everywhere in Prague, in the parks, along the river, even in the rubble still left from the war. So Reverend Norbert spread the word to his congregation to bring a flower for the worship service the next Sunday. And everyone did. Everyone showed up with a flower. There were stems of white daisy-like chamomile, yellow many-petaled leopard's bane, the bright pink rockets of cyclamen, plump yellow clusters of primroses, fuzzy pink spires of hens and chicks, deep blue gentians, pinky purple pasque-flower, and of course, many, many roses, which are the national flower of Czechoslovakia. So on June 4th, 1923, the day after Norbert's 53rd birthday, which is just how old I am right now, that plain church was bursting with colorful clusters of flowers, each uniquely beautiful, short, tall, spiky, round, scented, vibrant, and the uniquely beautiful faces of the congregants were also bursting with smiles and warmth and hope as they felt the powerful forces of growth and possibility in nature and in each other. Reverend Norbert Chapek called that feeling the hidden cry for harmony with the infinite. The hidden cry for harmony with the infinite that each person feels inside. At the end of the service that day, when they chose a flower to take home, those seeds of hope and harmony and fellowship, all of that went with them and began to grow in their hearts and in their spirits. So we Unitarians don't have too many religious celebrations to call our own, right? The flower communion is really one of those special rituals that is particular to Unitarians in the US and abroad. And I love the symbolism, taking something fragile and beautiful, a sign of hope and growth, something we choose to represent our individuality. And we add each flower like we did before, one by one, until it becomes this blessed, bright, beautiful bouquet. Then we each take part of that home with us and out into the world. And isn't that sort of a perfect description of a congregation? We each bring something different, something unique to this place. Some are cultivated, some are wild, but each of us is fragile and beautiful. Each of us caught in a perennial cycle of seasons, each of us being reborn over and over and over. And when we gather all that bounty and beauty on our Sundays, we create something more beautiful still, when all the colors of our different lives and experiences sit side by side next to each other, complement each other, and support each other to stand up stronger and longer than any one of us could manage alone. So let's keep that nice thought in our mind today as we enter into our annual meeting. As Unitarians, we hold democracy as something sacred. Blessed be the bylaws. And this process is really important. This is your church, my friends, your church. You literally shape the future of it, bringing all of your ideas and experiences to this table, and we want all voices to be heard here. So as beautiful, fragile flower people, let's be sure to speak and listen to each other with respect, as our covenant bids us to do. I'm going to keep this very short today because we have a lot of business this afternoon. So let me tell you one more important detail of the story of the flower communion. How did this end up being the one big thing that almost every UU congregation does in America? It's because of Norbert Chapek's wife, Maya Chapek. She was also a minister. She shared the flower communion for the first time in Cambridge in 1940 after fleeing for her life from the Nazis. Her husband, Norbert, was not so lucky and died in Dachau. Maya Chapik ended up right here in New Bedford, serving this congregation as the minister of our North Church and Unity Home, which started as an offshoot mission of our church and became its own congregation. And that congregation mostly consisted of immigrants from Bohemia, as they called it at the time, Hungary. And they worked in the mills in the North End, and for a long time they had been walking all the way from the North End down here to come to church. So we created a church in the North End so that they didn't have to walk so far. So a lot of those people worked in the North End mills and were immigrants. And she served there for almost 5 years in the early to mid 40s. And we were really, really lucky to have this woman minister here. In 2017, I finally got our green room renamed the Maya Chapik Room. It only took about, 20 years. Now, Emerson only served here for 6 months, and not even in this actual building, and we have a bust of him, so it was well past time to give Maya her due, and give her some credit for what she gave to our congregation and to our denomination. I'm proud that we got to set that right and honor her with at least naming a room after her. If somebody would like to buy a bust, go for it, we'll put it up. So considering the work that Maya did in this city and in this congregation, I think she would be very proud that we are taking an historic vote today on the 8th principle, affirming the kind of multiculturalism that she was so good at fostering. So let us honor her once again by following her example of love and hard work toward a greater justice for all. And let's get this 8th principle passed today in Maya's name. How's that? Okay, we have a hymn. Hymn number 21, if you would stand if you are willing and able. Number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
For the splendor of
Please be seated. Thank you. Sophia, did you get a picture of our beauty over here? Why don't you do that right now before we redistribute it? Now is the time in our service where we ask you for your kind donations toward the many good works of this church. And if you have something to give for Sarah's special thing, see Deb after the service. And oh, the lottery tree, yes. Pam just reminded me, the lottery tree will be raffled off July 2nd after the jazz service.
And next Sunday we'll be doing giving Sarah a go-away gift.
Oh, next Saturday we're giving Sarah a going away present. That's right, she's gonna come by. Sunday. It's time for us now to share in the flower communion, and I ask that each of you in turn approach the communion vase. You do so quietly and reverently, with a sense of how important it is for each of us to address our world and one another with gentleness, justice, and love. So I ask that you select a flower different from the one that you brought, that particularly appeals to you. As you take your chosen flower, noting its particular shape and beauty, please remember to handle it carefully. It is a gift that someone else has brought to you. It represents that person's unique humanity and therefore deserves your kindest touch. So let us share quietly in this Unitarian, Universalist ritual of oneness and love. Kids, you want to be the first to come up and get a fresh flower, a new flower? A different one from what you brought? if everyone else would like to come and grab a flower. Our closing words this morning, just before Dr. Chapik was put to death in Dachau, he wrote this prayer reflecting on his own life and the state of his spirit. It is very powerful. It is worthwhile to live and fight courageously for sacred ideals. Oh, blow ye evil winds into my body's fire, my soul you will never unravel. Even though disappointed 1,000 times, or fallen in the fight and everything would worthless seem, I have lived amidst eternity. Be grateful, my soul, my life was worth living. He who was pressed from all sides but remained victorious in spirit is welcomed into the choir of heroes. He who overcame the fetters, giving wings to the mind, is entering into the golden age of the victorious. So may it be. Now, before we go, let us also acknowledge that this is the last time for this year that we will have Randy Fayen bringing us some music till September. I know, well, we'll have to bring in more money if we want to bring him back in June. So consider that. So we thank you, Randy. We will miss you. We love you. you, Randy. We'll see you in September. Have an awesome summer. If you are a voting member, please remain here. If you are not, you are welcome to go get some coffee. But even if you are not a voting member, you're